Hello, it's me Josh, welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for being here. Hope you're excited and ready to read books. I always am. Yeah, reading books is awesome. This is Mr. Chatterbox from the Mr. Men library. Now don't you worry, we will be getting to the Little Miss library as well for all you little misses out there. I'm looking forward to delving into this one. I'm a little bit of a chatterbox myself, if you can't tell. Any other chatterboxes out there? Woohoo! Love it! Alright, get comfortable, get ready, because we're about to delve into story time. That's right. Here we go. Mr. Chatterbox was one of those people who simply couldn't stop talking. He used to talk to anybody and everybody about anything and everything, going on and on and on. Here's Mr. Chatterbox here talking to a worm. Sun's out. He's like, what are you doing? Let's talk. And on and on and on and on. Oh, now the moon's out. He's still talking to the worm. And on and on and on and on. The sun is rising. And he's still talking to the worm. So it's the following day. The worm doesn't look too happy to still be stuck talking. And when he didn't have anybody else to talk to, he used to talk to himself. Good morning, Mr. Chatterbox, he used to say to himself. Good morning to you, he used to reply to himself. Nice day, isn't it? Yes, it is. For the time of year. And so on and so on, and on and on. Nobody's there and he's still having a jolly old time. He lived in a box-shaped house in a village. Chatterbox Cottage. It's his little house there. Little box. One morning the postman arrived with a letter for him. Morning, Mr. Chatterbox, said the postman. Ah, good morning to you, postman, replied Mr. Chatterbox. Although, as I was saying to myself only yesterday, or was it the day before, I forget. However, it's not quite so good a morning in my opinion, but I might be wrong, although I'm not very often as... It was the other day. Monday, I think it was, or perhaps it was Tuesday, but never mind, because it's quite a good morning, don't you agree? Yes, of course you do, because that's what you said to me in the first place. And and he went on and on all morning, and the poor postman was late delivering all his letters. There you go. Having a chat. Oh, who's Mr. Chatterbox talking to now? Let's find out. That afternoon, Mr. Chatterbox went into the hat shop in the village. Hello, Mr. Bowler, he said to the man who owned the hat shop. Do you think if it's possible that I could buy, if it's not too expensive, but I'm sure it won't be, a new hat? Because, would you believe it? Yes, of course you would. But anyway, as I was saying, my present hat, the one on my head, as you can see, is getting, how can I put it, a little too old because I've had it for, let me see now, it must be, let's think, 10 years. No, I tell a lie. It can't be that long. Or, can it? Well, yes, it could be. But on the other hand, it really does talk, eh? And he went on and on all afternoon and half the night. And half the night long, after poor Mr. Bowler should have shut up shop and gone home. The poor guy was stuck after hours to chat to Mr. Chatterbox. Uh-oh. Eventually, when Mr. Bowler managed to get a word in, edgeways, or was it sideways, he promised to order a new hat for Mr. Chatterbox. Then he pushed Mr. Chatterbox out of his shop, still talking, of course, and went home for his supper, which was cold, of course, because Mrs. Bowler had cooked it for him hours ago. And while he ate, he thought. That's Mr. Chatterbox and Mr. Bowler parting ways there. Exactly 1 week later, the new hat for Mr. Chatterbox arrived in a smart red hat box. The postman delivered it to Mr. Bowler's shop. At last, said Mr. Bowler, heaving a sigh of relief. I think this hat is going to be the answer to the problem of Mr. Chatterbox talking so much. I wish it could be, said the postman, but how can it? Because, replied Mr. Bowler, this hat is a magic hat. Oh, replied the postman, who didn't quite understand. That same afternoon, Mr. Bowler took the new hat round to Chatterbox Cottage. "Oh goody," said Mr. Chatterbox, seizing the hat box and opening it. "It's my new hat, my lovely new hat. I couldn't wait for it to arrive, in fact. I got up early this morning because, aren't I silly, I just knew, I don't know how, but I really knew, that today would be the day. I don't know how I knew, but I knew, and it is. And here's my hat. Oh, isn't it beautiful? I can't wait to try it on. Oh, I do hope it suits me. Do you think it will? Yes, of course you do. And why don't you try it on?" said Mr. Bowler, grinning. Mr. Chatterbox chats, doesn't he? Yes. "Try it on." "Yes, of course, I must try it on. How silly of me to stand here chattering on when I haven't tried it on yet. Yes, I will, absolutely, definitely try it on straight away because, as I said, it's silly just to talk about trying it on and then not try it on, isn't it?" And so he took the hat out of the hat box and put it on. It was a beautiful hat. Mr. Chatterbox has got an orange hat now. Mr. Bowler seems happy, has a little smile on his dial. Let's see how Mr. Chatterbox's talking goes now. "I say," he said, "I must say, yes, I really must, that this hat is, yes, it really is, to say the least, one of the better hats I have ever seen in my life. And in this life, I must say, I have seen some hats. And furthermore," but while he was talking, a funny thing was happening. The more words that came out of Mr. Chatterbox's mouth, the larger his hat became. The more Mr. Chatterbox talked, the more the hat grew and grew. Mr. Chatterbox kept on talking, and the hat kept on growing. Look at the size of it now. Wouldn't take long for this hat to grow with Mr. Chatterbox's way of talking, hey? Yeah. "I can't see anything," he said. "One minute I was standing here admiring my new hat, and now, all of a sudden, without any warning, taking me all unawares just like that." The hat grew down to his feet, and Mr. Chatterbox stopped talking. And as soon as he stopped talking, the hat grew smaller and smaller, until it was the same size as when he'd first tried it on. Mr. Bowler had gone when Mr. Chatterbox couldn't see him, and now he was walking back to his shop. "My special magic hat really works," he chuckled. Here he is walking by, a big smile on his face. It's working. And you can actually see in the background there, Mr. Chatterbox with his hat all the way over his body except his feet. The following day, Mr. Chatterbox was out for a walk when he met the postman in the village. "Hello, postman," he said. "I say, do you like my new hat? Have you ever seen such a fine hat?" "I'm sure you never have. What a hat!" But you know what was happening, don't you? So he started chatting away to the postman here. Do you think the hat's going to start growing? Yep. The hat grew and grew and grew the more Mr. Chatterbox talked. "Now I know what Mr. Bowler meant by a magic hat," chuckled the postman, and he went on his way, leaving poor Mr. Chatterbox speechless. He thought, thinking. Not talking. Thinking. Postman is like, "Oof, I can deliver my mail on time today." And do you know something? The hat taught Mr. Chatterbox a lesson. And these days he doesn't talk half as much as he used to, or even a quarter as much. And you know the reason for that, don't you? Yes, of course you do. But that's Mr. Chatterbox looks like he's just standing there winking to the worm now, not chatting away. He's just standing there. Because you have to keep it under your hat, it says here. And what's under your hat inside your head? A brain, that's right. That's where all your thoughts are. Thanks so much for reading the story with me today. I hope you enjoyed Mr. Chatterbox. Another fun book. I'll be back again really soon with another story, don't you worry about that. Please subscribe, click the bell below if you like reading these stories, and there are plenty more to come. Alright, see you again for story time really soon. Bye for now, not forever.